Right now, without thinking about it, you know roughly what time it is, not because you checked your phone, not because you looked at a clock, but because something deep inside your biology has been running a silent countdown since the moment you woke up this morning. You can feel the weight of the day, the particular quality of your hunger, the way your energy has shifted since noon. The faint pull toward rest that begins somewhere in the late afternoon, even before the sun has moved. You have a sense of time, and you have never once had to think about having it. Now, imagine it is gone. Not the clocks, not the calendars, not the schedules or the timetables or the deadlines. Those still exist. What is gone is the internal experience of time passing. The felt sense that moments are moving, that the present is connected to the past and leading somewhere forward. Gone, instantly, globally, in every human being on Earth simultaneously. Most people imagine this would be mildly inconvenient, like losing your watch. It would not be mildly inconvenient. It would be one of the most destabilizing events in the history of the species, and it would begin doing damage almost immediately. Day 1. The first thing to understand is that your sense of time is not located in your mind. It is located in your body. Every cell in your body contains a molecular clock, a set of proteins that cycle through activation and deactivation on a roughly 24-hour loop. These are not metaphorical clocks. They are literal timekeeping mechanisms discovered and mapped by the scientists Jeffrey Hall, Michael Rosbash, and Michael Young, who won the Nobel Prize in Physiology in 2017 for doing so. These clocks control everything. When your liver enzymes activate to process food, when your kidneys filter your blood most efficiently, when your immune cells are most aggressive against infection, when your body temperature peaks, when your cortisol rises to wake you, and when your melatonin rises to bring you toward sleep. Every organ in your body runs on a schedule, and that schedule is synchronized to your conscious experience of time passing through the day. Remove the conscious experience of time, and the synchronization begins to break down immediately. By the end of day 1, the first signs are psychological. Without a felt sense of time passing, the brain loses its ability to sequence. Events stop feeling like they are happening in order. The present moment expands into a strange, flat, undifferentiated now. The neuroscientist David Eagleman at Stanford, who has spent his career studying time perception, describes our sense of time as the scaffolding on which all other experiences hung. Remove the scaffolding and the experience collapses into a formless heap. People begin reporting that they cannot tell whether something happened 5 minutes ago or 5 hours ago, whether they have eaten recently or not, whether they slept last night or the night before. The ordinary landmarks that structure a human day, hunger, tiredness, the angle of light, the rhythm of activity, are still present, but without the internal thread of time connecting them, they float free of sequence. Anxiety spikes globally within hours, not because anything catastrophically visible has happened, but because humans are profoundly, fundamentally oriented creatures. We know where we are in time the way we know where we are in space. Remove that orientation and the brain registers it as an emergency even before it can articulate why. Week 1. The sleep systems are collapsing. Sleep is not simply tiredness accumulating until you fall over. It is a precisely timed biological process orchestrated by the circadian clock. The pressure to sleep builds across the day in a wave. The adenosine tide that the Swiss researcher Alexander Borbelli first described, and the timing of that wave is anchored to the felt experience of time passing. Without that anchor, the wave loses its shape. People are falling asleep at random intervals, waking after 2 hours or 14, unable to predict or control when sleep arrives or how long it lasts. The architecture of sleep, the carefully sequenced stages of light sleep, deep sleep, and REM that perform different biological maintenance tasks, begins to fragment because those stages depend on timing signals from the circadian system that are no longer receiving coherent input. The consequences of disrupted sleep architecture are not subtle. After 1 week of fragmented, mistimed sleep, cognitive performance has declined to levels comparable to severe sleep deprivation. Memory consolidation has faltered. Emotional regulation has weakened. The immune system, which performs much of its repair work during specific sleep stages at specific times of night, is operating at reduced capacity. Month 1. The body is running without its conductor. Every organ system that depends on timing, which is most of them, is now operating on a degraded signal. The liver, which normally coordinates its metabolic activity to coincide with feeding times that the circadian clock anticipates, is receiving no anticipatory signal. Digestion becomes inefficient. Nutrient absorption drops. The gut microbiome, which has its own circadian rhythms synchronized to the host's clock, begins to dysregulate. The hormonal system, which runs almost entirely on timed pulses, cortisol peaking in the morning, insulin sensitivity shifting across the day, growth hormone releasing in specific windows of deep sleep, is now releasing in patterns that reflect biological noise rather than biological intention. The endocrinologist Frank Shear at Harvard Medical School has documented how even small shifts in circadian timing produce measurable changes in metabolic health, blood pressure, and cardiovascular risk. A complete collapse of time perception produces not a small shift, but the elimination of timing altogether. Cardiovascular events increase. Not because hearts are failing, but because the cardiovascular system is designed to anticipate. Without anticipation, it is always responding rather than preparing, always behind, always catching up. Human civilization is, at its most fundamental level, a coordination problem. We build cities, economies, supply chains, and governments on the assumption that human beings can agree on when things happen. The moment you remove the internal experience of time, coordination becomes almost impossible. Not because the clocks have stopped, but because the clocks mean nothing to people who cannot feel time passing. Yuan, transport systems built on precise timing are running on external enforcement rather than internal human coordination. Every system that depended on human beings having an accurate internal sense of time is now running on rules, alarms, and an enormous amount of friction that was never there before. Mental health services are overwhelmed. Without the experience of time passing, the future loses its reality. Hope, which is fundamentally a relationship with a future that feels real and reachable, weakens. People describe their experience as flatter, stranger, less continuous, less like being a person moving through time and more like being a series of disconnected moments with no thread between them. Year 10. Humanity has adapted, but not in the way anyone would have predicted. A new relationship with time has emerged, not internal and felt, but external and negotiated. Humans have rebuilt their coordination systems around environmental signals that were always there but never needed. The position of the sun, the temperature of the air, the behavior of animals whose own circadian rhythms were not affected. A kind of ecological timekeeping has replaced the internal kind, and something unexpected has happened in the gap. Without the constant pressure of time, without the felt urgency of minutes passing, of being late, of running out of it, certain things have changed about how humans relate to each other and to the present moment. The tyranny of the schedule is loosened. People no longer able to feel time slipping away have found themselves more fully present in whatever moment they are in. Whether that trade is a loss or a liberation depends entirely on what you thought time was for. Right now, without thinking about it, you know roughly what time it is. That knowledge is a gift so constant you have never had to notice it. Until now.